What's up guys, welcome back. My name is La and today we're going to be making a kind of creepy, eerie pad for melodic techno, or I guess you could use it in other genres as well, and we're going to be using Serum. So let's get stuck in. Okay, so here we have the sound. I'll just play it. So that's it playing on just one note, but you can play it as a chord. So if I just press like... So it can be quite a creepy pad, or it can be quite nice and beautiful. So what I'm just pressing like a fifth there, so an F and then C. It's quite nice and pretty. And one thing you might notice is if I press harder, then the velocity will affect the sound. So if I press quite light, the LFO is shorter. If I press hard, it's drastically more aggressive. Cool, so that is the sound. I could just show you in context. I've kind of made this little melodic techno demo here, so let's just have a listen. Probably have it a bit quieter. So you can hear this adding this kind of like eeriness to the track. It's quite cool. So let's have a look at the sound design now in Serum. So the original sound is taken from the Melodic Techno Academy, which I'll link down below, which is a full comprehensive academy where you do a start to finish course where you're building a melodic techno track from start to finish. And then there's modules on music theory. There's a module that I did on low end hacks, so getting your low end nice and tight. There's also mixing and mastering. But yeah, you guys can check it out. And yeah, then you can grab all these presets and you don't have to watch this whole video and do it step by step. You can just grab it. But we're going to make it from scratch. So let's just start this over again. So initial patch. First thing that we want to do is we want to turn this into the monster one, which I think is in spectral. Yeah, here we go. So whenever we're doing the oscillators here, so you see oscillator A and oscillator B, this is just the voicing of the sound. So we could have this in any way that we want, but in this case we want it to be kind of this creepy, almost digital type of sound. So with this, we're going to change the waveform, move it all the way over to the right. It's just going to morph the waveform a little bit, and then we're going to add some unison to it. Just make sure it's soloed. Yeah, there we go. We've got that kind of like receive sound. And what we want to do now is just bend this a little bit. So we're going to put this bend plus and minus. It just bends the waveform. You can almost like tune it with this. And we want that kind of gnarly sound. And then what we want to do is we can, in fact, we'll do this later, but we're going to modulate the phase. We'll do it with an LFO, but we'll set them up after. We can just bring this up an octave. There we go. And we need to put the filter on because right now it's a bit buzzy. There we go. All right, so now we are going to add a secondary voice. This one we're going to also bring this up an octave, and then we're going to bring it to the basic CJ, something like that, CJW. This one here. And then we're going to bring the wavetable position up to kind of a triangle wave. Yeah, sounding right. And then we're going to put it onto this silent, which kind of bends the waveform as well. So you can see it's kind of morphing it here. We're going to add some unison to this as well. With this being a pad, it's all good to add quite a bit of width to the sound rather than it being so concentrated down the middle, because you probably have your more main sounds like your basses and leads and drums a bit more down the middle, and then things like pads you would have them more pushed over to the side. So yeah, we could play with the detune here. We don't want it to be too detuned. And you can actually just bring this bend down a little bit. That won't do anything if you got it on 2, but if you're on here on this 4, we want to bring this one down. So it makes it so that you're choosing which of the voices is going to be more prioritized, so the more of the side voices or the ones down the middle. So you can hear that's more on the sides, and these are more in the middle. So with this, we're going to bring it all the way over. So it's just a little bit of width there. Okay, cool. So now we have our voicing. We can probably turn this one down a little bit. So it's mostly this one. We've got this filter, which is all good. We can add a bit of drive to the filter. Add a bit of fat, just makes it a little bit louder. We're going to put the noise oscillator on and turn this on now to add a little bit of noise. Put this onto ARP white. You can choose whichever one you want for the noise, by the way. There's no specific one that you have to choose, but the ARP white's quite nice. You can get it so it key tracks, so the pitching key tracks. We could change the phase of it a little bit. This will become a bit more apparent when we open the sound up like this, which we can just do for now so we can hear the changes. Add a bit of pitch. So you can hear that that brightens it. Okay, cool. I think we'll just leave that. You can pan it a little bit as well. Yeah, we'll leave that as it is now. So now we want it to act like a pad. And for a pad, the characteristics that you want is, so for envelope 1, which is typically the amp envelope in pretty much every single synth. So it's that controlling the amplitude of the sound. So if we just bring this attack over really slow, it's going to give this kind of warping effect. And that's what you want for a pad. We can make it a bit more straight. And then we can just take the sustain down, add a bit of release, so that the sound will die off. That's what we want, that kind of eerie feel. Okay, so we can attach this second envelope here to the cutoff filter, and we can do a similar shape there. Let's do this. We'll bring this down, and then we'll do pretty much the exact same shape. So you get the amplitude bringing the sound in, and then you get the cutoff filter opening the sound up. Let's just make this a little bit straight here, take away the sustain. Maybe a bit more release and a bit more decay. Yeah, and we can open it up a little bit more. Let's just bring this out here. Okay, cool. So the next thing we want to add is the LFO 1, and we're going to start adding some movement to the sound. So LFO 1 is going to be attached to the cutoff filter, quite small amount, and you can get it to go both ways by holding Option, Shift, and then clicking. So now we're getting that whoom, 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 which is quite nice, but we want it to actually go quite quick. So we put the rate to 32. So you're getting that kind of flickering. And now we can modulate the rate as well. So if we put the note, and that just means if you're moving up and down the keyboard, so key tracking, it's going to affect the speed. So we put this onto the rate, and then we're going to put this both ways again. So Shift, Option, click. So if we play higher up, it's going to change the speed of the LFO very slightly. Nothing too drastic, just a little change. We don't want it to be so drastic between the different notes. It'll be quite impractical to use the sound. Cool, so now we've set up our movement on the LFO. Let's add it to one of the things. We've got it on the cutoff filter, and we can also add it to the phase here, which is interesting. Gives it that nice wobble effect. Really nice. Okay, so the next LFO that we're going to add is LFO 3, or you can actually just use LFO 1, and we're going to put this onto the wavetable position here. So you're getting that kind of feeling, but we probably want it to be a bit slower, so let's put it onto bar, like a bar here. So it just gradually cycles through the different wavetable positions. We put it on this one because this is the majority of the sound. It's mostly coming from this oscillator here. You could also do it on here, but it's not so apparent and not so obvious because it's not such a big part of the sound. Okay, cool. So now we've basically got the general gist of the sound. This is everything that we need for the characteristic, but we want it to sound a bit more epic. And so now we're in the effects chain, we can start adding a bit of width and things like that. So let's add this hyper dimension. And we're going to add a bit more detune. Bring the rate down, so we're adding the detune, but it's not going to be super quick. It's like a slow amount of detune. We could put a bit more unison here. Let's go to 6. And then bring this mix down. We don't want that to be super strong. Okay, cool. And we can add a little bit of this dimension here. Yeah, nice. It's just adding a little bit of width, nothing too strong. And now we're going to add a phaser. That's giving it that kind of, well, I don't know how else to describe it, but phasey sound. You can leave the rest of the settings pretty much as they are, maybe reduce the feedback a little bit. So it's a very subtle amount of phasing, quite nice. And now we're going to add a bit of reverb, and so it's going to sound a bit more epic and big. Yeah, a bit more size. A bit more decay. And let's just bring this down a little bit. Yeah, there we go. I think what I want to do is just remove a little bit of the release here so it doesn't carry on for too long. Okay, and the next thing we're going to add is a EQ8. With this EQ, we just want to take away a little bit of the lows. Take down the Q. We don't want this notch here. You can bring it over a little bit. There we go. Cool, so that is all the effects that we need to add to the sound. But we are not done yet. We're going to do a little bit more. So we're going to add some velocity to things. So as we press harder onto the note, as I showed you before, it's going to make the synth react. So we're going to put the velocity onto the cutoff filter. And this is where you hear the sound come a little bit more to life, and especially more interesting if you're playing different velocities with the keyboard. So I've just added the velocity to the panning as well. You can kind of go a bit wild here with things and just see what kind of results you get. If you like the sound of it, obviously just remove it if you don't. So a bit of panning, we've got the sound opening up. We can also add it to, let's say, add it to the noise volume. Yeah, really nice. Let's also add it to, the amplitude of the sound, which you need to do here. So go into the matrix and we go on velocity. There's just some parameters that you can't do within like just dragging things over, so you have to do it here. So yeah, in the matrix we put velocity, and then we're going to go on to global, and we're going to go on amplitude, and then we're going to increase this. Whenever you're doing velocity, it's good to have it go both ways, because obviously if you press lighter, it's going to react differently to how it would if you're pressing harder. So it needs to go both ways for it to be more natural. Let's have it a bit heavier. Let's have it on the noise as well. So pretty much everything that we've got this velocity on, we can have it go both ways. Let's have it a bit more increased here. So whatever it's highlighted in blue here, as you can see, that just means it's the last thing that we've clicked on, so or the thing that's being modulated or is doing the modulating. So if I click on note, then I can see wherever the note is being modulated, which is just onto this LFO here. And here, if I press velocity, we can see the parameters where the velocity is. Okay, cool. So now we have the majority of the sound. Okay, so the next thing we want to do, this is the last thing, is just adding some adjustable things for us that's easy to access. So you can just add this macro here and put it onto the cutoff filter. And then we're just going to bring this to around here. We don't need to fully open it. And then we can just change the name on here or rename it. And then you can just adjust the cutoff filter with this. You can also go further and attach this to other things, other parameters, so that you have more than one thing being modulated at the same time, just with one wheel. I'll just give you an example of this. So say if we put it onto LFO 1 and we put it onto the rate of LFO 1, and then we start increasing this, you can hear you get a pretty cool and drastic effect. We can also bring this the other way. Right, it's up to you however you want to do it. On the original, we don't have that. I'm just going to take it off so it's the same as the original. And let's just bring this cutoff filter up a little bit. Cool, and we can also put the mod wheel onto things as well. So on the mod wheel, you could put, say, onto the noise oscillator. So if you move your mod wheel on your keyboard, if you have a mod wheel, it's like the modifier wheel, it will increase the noise. You could put it onto the cutoff filter as well. So you can kind of perform along as you're playing the note. So say like this, if I just press a note, and then I'll just increase the mod wheel as I'm pressing. So yeah, it's quite fun and expressive. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the sound, guys. I hope there's enough information here for you guys to apply it to your own sounds, or if you just want to grab this sound, then yeah, check the link down below and you can grab it. So yeah, have fun with your sound design, guys, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.